Test 1, 2. Yep, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Chuck Iova, and I'll be presiding over this evening's meeting of the Planning Board, July 14th, 2021. Before we get started, let me read that for those in attendance, under the provisions of the open meeting law, attendees are informed that this meeting is being recorded by Urban Media Arts, formerly known as Malden Access Television. Brian DeLacy has also notified that he will be doing video and audio recording for this meeting. I have received no other notifications that any other video or audio recording of this meeting will occur. Thank you. And then the next thing I would like to do before we do our roll call is I would like to remind everyone, we've had some feedback that people are not speaking into the microphones. When you talk, please lean into the microphone, make sure the red light is on. People are not picking up our voices when we're doing the meetings. We'll also ask all the people who are petitioners coming up to the podium, start with your name and address for the record and speak into the microphone when you're giving your presentation or testimony for those in favor or against. Yes, Michelle?
And sign in.
And make sure you sign in. There's a pad of paper out there?
Yes.
There's a pad of paper. Please sign in with your name and address for the record. Thank you very much. And we will start with Tawadij. If you could start with the roll call, please.
Tawadij Gabrasilase, Planning Board.
Patrick Fitzgerald, Planning Board.
Diane Shuha, Planning Board.
Ken Antonucci, Planning Board.
Chuck Iovan, Planning Board.
Michelle Romero, City Planner.
Eric McCush, Planning Board.
Pat Hayes, Planning Board.
Eric Henry, Planning Board.
Henry Susi, Planning Board.
Thank you very much. The first item that we have on our agenda is 320 State Highway, also known as 735 Broadway. This petition is not before us properly. There is notification requirements that were not met, so we are unable to hear 320 State Highway, also known as 735 Broadway. Michelle, did you have any comments?
Yes, thank you. The city solicitor has advised that the planning board enter into an agreement with the petitioner and that this agreement be in writing. I have a copy of the written agreement ready for signature. And this is an agreement whereby the petitioner and the board would agree to extend the 65-day time limit provided by Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 9, for the planning board to commence a public hearing on the petition regarding 320 State Highway Malden, also known as 735 Broadway, permit ID CMID 037453-2021. And the planning board will schedule and hold a public hearing on this petition as soon as possible. We will discuss that date in a minute, provided that statutory notice requirements of Mass General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 11 are met. So we have that recommendation from the city solicitor that you enter into this written agreement with the petitioner. The petitioner's attorney, Thomas Callahan, is here. I have been polling you, as you know, for different meeting dates. We are going to convene a special meeting. This will be, at this time, we do have a confirmation of not just a quorum, but 9 members will be available August 25th. So that will be a special meeting we'll convene to hear this particular petition. So.
Okay, very good. So the meeting that was supposed to be held tonight for 735 Broadway will be held on Wednesday, August 25th.
Yes, and we will send notices, post notices, publish notice, and you should move ahead to take a vote to sign this agreement, authorize you to sign it, so.
Very good. Is there a motion to allow me to sign the agreement postponing this presentation to August 25th. Eric Henry, hold on a second.
I move that we move forward with that motion.
Very good. And then Ken Antonucci.
I'll second.
Very good.
So, do you want to we'll take a roll call vote? This is a vote to authorize you to sign this agreement for extension regarding 320 State Highway. Ken Antonucci?
Yes.
Diane Shuha?
Yes.
Patrick Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Tawadej Gebrselassie?
Yes.
Patrick Hayes?
Yes.
Eric Henry?
Yes.
Eric McCush?
Yes.
Henry Susi?
Yes.
Chuck Ioven?
Yes.
So you are authorized to sign it. I will hand it to you to sign, and then we will request the petitioner.
Thank you, Counselor. Thank you. Okay.
This agreement will be recorded with the city clerk.
Very good. Okay, so the next item on the agenda, Eric Henry.
Yes, sir, Chair, thank you very much. I was just wondering, forgive me, I probably should know this, but I don't think the gentleman who addressed you gave his name and address or anything.
No, that's okay, thank you. He wasn't giving any testimony.
Oh,
Thank you. Okay. Ken Antonucci, would you please read the notice for 219 Center Street?
The Malden Planning Board will hold a public hearing in the Herbert L. Jackson Council Chamber, Malden City Hall, 215 Pleasant Street, Malden, Mass. at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, July 14th, 2021, on the petition of AFC New England LLC on behalf of Irving Court Associates, permit application number C000037982-2021, seeking to amend the special permit granted in case number 13-18 under section 12.12.030 of chapter 12, revised ordinances of 2020 as amended of the city of Malden, which allows medical center use of property in the central business zoning district, namely, to amend the condition regarding transfer of the special permit at the property known as and numbered 219 Center Street, part of the property known as and numbered 225 Center Street, Malden, Mass., and also known by City Assessor's Parcel ID number 075271106.
Thank you very much, Ken. Is the petitioner present? There we go.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Chairman, Thomas Callahan with offices at 1 Center Street, Malden. I'm here on behalf of AFC New England, who seeks to purchase the current business from North Shore Medical Ventures, who received the original special permit in 2013 from the board. The original permit was granted to North Shore Medical Ventures to allow for this medical use. And I'm sorry, I should point out, I have with me Jim Brennan from the AFC New England and also Bill Polakis from North Shore Medical Ventures, both the potential purchaser and the potential seller in this situation. The special permit, as well as your zoning ordinance, prohibits the transfer of a medical special permit, and that's why we are here before you tonight. You've probably all noticed AFC Urgent Care. It's a walk-in clinic, urgent care facility with medical services, including X-ray and lab. Our petition, again, is a simple one. It's to allow for the change in ownership to AFC New England. There's no change in the footprint of the building. There's no change to the floor plan. There's no change to the personnel. In fact, the same personnel that are there today will be there tomorrow. No additional personnel. It's the same. It's really the same business, which, and the sign doesn't change because it's AFC Urgent Care. That doesn't. So nothing changes. But just for your information, currently it's staffed by a medical provider, 2 medical assistants, an X-ray technician, and an office manager. And it's been there obviously since 2013. And just for your information, in case you were curious, AFC New England is a subsidiary of the corporate franchisor. So the franchisor basically is purchasing a franchise back from the current owners, and that's what this is all about. We did have a chance to review the planning staff report and the conditions, and we find those conditions acceptable. So with that, I certainly open to questions, of course, but request that you grant this special permit to allow for this change in ownership. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Counselor. I read your letter dated June 15th to Nelson Miller, where you had expressed the same thing, that absolutely nothing about this is going to change with regard to staff, hours of operation, operating procedure. It's really just in the ownership portion of it. So I understand that piece. One thing I did see on that, I noticed that the lease that you attached, approval, assignment, and amendment of lease, isn't dated. It's signed, but it's not dated. Are you awaiting the approval of special permit?
Well, we're waiting the approval here because, of course, if you did not approve it, then we could not take over. We could not be assigned the lease and take it over.
Okay, I just wanted to confirm that that was the case.
Sure, sure. And Brian Cafferty, the attorney for Combined Properties, the owner of the building, is here as well, if you have any questions about that. The owner of the property.
Yeah, no, I don't see his name as one of the signees, but okay, I just want to confirm that you were waiting on the approval of the special permit
Yes,
before you filled that out. Okay, thank you. Otherwise, the only question I had, Michelle, was with regard to the conditions from last time. I believe one of the conditions that was in question was met. The fact that there was a meeting between myself, the mayor, the business development director, the ward councilor, and Combined Properties. And we did have that meeting. Did you have any other questions on that?
No, I was able to confirm with all the representatives that attended that meeting that, yes, it did occur. Those issues were discussed, and it was, none of the improvements were made. So the condition only required that the meeting be held to discuss those improvements. And I have a couple different, I won't read them into the record unless you wanted more details. I have a couple different versions of why the improvements were never made. from the different parties, but the bottom line is that they were not made.
Okay, so that's fine.
And these are specific to installing bollards in front of the building, installing a blinking blue emergency light and signage at the intersection of Route 16 Ferry Street, and installation of cameras and lighting in locations adjacent to the site along the Northern Strand Community Trail by the CPAP.
And I thought there was a question on the cameras on the bike path, whether
Yeah,
that was done or...
I believe I did get confirmation that, that was not done. So
Okay. Okay,
it was not required to be done
no, very good. Do you have any other questions?
for
Michelle?
the petition.
Yeah.
I actually did have one question, and it's not 100% clear to me. So you, when the petitioner originally came, they specifically said they would be doing business as Doctors Express. And so the condition for that special permit, and board members do have a copy of that, the condition actually read, this special permit may be exercised only by Doctors Express Urgent Care. So I'm curious, when did it change and how did it change? Because it is today, at least, and I don't know how long it's been there, it seems to have been AFC for quite a while, so if you could address that or explain that.
Sure. I think I'll ask Bill Polakis, the principal of North Shore Medical Ventures, who's
Okay, thank you. And I appreciate that. Could you put that microphone up on top here, because I don't know if anyone else, I'm having trouble hearing you, it's very low. Yeah, on top of that, that's what they had done at another meeting I was at. Does it reach up there? Just, it's very, yeah, thank you. Thank you. Just to make sure everything's being properly heard. Thank you.
It wants to come down, but I'll see if I can
Okay,
fight it.
thank
There
you.
we go.
Hello, everybody. So Doctors Express was the...
Excuse me, sir, name and address.
Oh, I'm
for the
sorry.
record.
Bill Polakis, owner-operator at 219 Center Street, AFC Urgent Care in Malden. In 2015, AFC Urgent Care purchased the franchise company formerly known as Doctors Express. So we in 2015, changed our name over to AFC Urgent Care, but the operation piece remained exactly the same.
Okay. So there was no transfer of anything?
No.
Okay, thank you.
You're all set, Michelle?
Yes.
Okay, is there anyone else on the board that has any questions for the petitioner? Anyone on the board? Eric Henry.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't know if Mr. Callahan, actually first, thanks, pleasure to meet you. With regards to maybe some benevolence or something like that toward the city of Malden and stewardship there, I was just curious, excuse me, there's no water here tonight. There were, forgive me, several instances where the city requested certain things to be done and they were not done for some reasons. I was just curious as to what are your thoughts you can share as to why those were not accomplished.
I don't have that history, Mr. Henry. As I think Michelle pointed out, that discovered, that meeting was held, and I did confirm that with Attorney Brian Cafferty, which he was not at Combined at that particular time, but he talked with the principal, John Pereira, and some others who were, and in fact, the meeting did take place. So none of us have firsthand knowledge, at least on our side, as to why the improvements were discussed but not implemented. Apparently, there was other reasons, or they felt whatever was contemplated wasn't really going to solve a problem. I don't know. Michelle may have more information on the city side as to why that didn't happen. But we know the meeting happened, in my opinion, since that was the condition that the meeting happened, then it has been satisfied.
Okay, thank you, Councilor. Eric, do you have anything else?
I'll yield right now, one question.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who has a question for the petitioner or his attorney? No? Counselor, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
No, I'm fine, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, terrific, thank you. At this, Eric Henry.
I don't know if this is the appropriate time, but Michelle, can you read those, what was, I don't understand what was this all about, the meeting and the request, and maybe the applicant may be amenable to addressing some of these things that the city sought for to even mention that, if that can be taken for its word. Is the petitioner just wholly unamenable to any of the suggestions that was presented in this alleged meeting?
Well, we weren't prepared to address those. We reviewed, as I stated in my presentation, we reviewed the planning recommendations or the proposed conditions, and we found those all acceptable. It's, you know, would have to understand more detail, you know, in terms of what was contemplated in the 2013 meeting, and also need to understand why they weren't implemented. Were they not implemented because it was determined that they were not necessary? I know one was bollards, for instance, in the front of the building. I think the prior building commissioner suggested that be a good idea because several cars evidently went into the building. I'm not quite sure how that happened, but there is parking stops there now, and there is a curb. So I don't know too many buildings that then put a bollard in front of a parking stop, a concrete parking stop, and a curb. It seems to me that stops a car unless it's really totally out of control, and it's a relatively narrow walkway in front of the buildings, in front of the premises. So I think the bollard would obviously intrude upon that, and so I don't, that was my feeling when I looked at the site after reviewing the 2013 suggestion, is that why was that really even thought about it at the time? Don't know, I wasn't there, but I don't know if, but there are other issues, of course, from that 2013 meeting agenda, if you will. In another one, for instance, the blinking emergency light.
Yes, sir.
That's there now. I believe
Great.
CVS put it in, not Center Street, the Center Street property, but it's there, so that's all good. So those are two of the three issues. The last one is the camera and lighting on the bike path. Certainly, I could speak with my client briefly and determine if he was willing to, and speak with the owner's representative, if they would be willing to put in a camera. See, we of course, we're a tenant. We're a
Yes,
tenant.
I agree with you. The idea of you having to speak with your petitioners and your clients, so we're a very patient body.
Okay, you all set, Eric?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So at this point, Eric Henry,
I made them.
okay? At this point, I would like to entertain anyone who would like to speak in favor of this petition. Anyone who would like to speak in favor?
Stephen Winslow, 83 Jacob Street, Counselor at Large. And I did get a chance to read the staff memo, and I want to thank Michelle Romero and the staff for suggesting a condition related to cleaning up the bike trail. As someone who's often out there with volunteers cleaning up the trail, I find that the areas that a trail that immediately abut parking lots, including this stretch here, tend to be the dirtiest. Somehow stuff falls out of cars or people leave it. And so I'm very supportive of that condition. We'll see. I would certainly be supportive of a condition to have a camera there. The trail is lit there. through, it's actually one of the few stretches of the trail that has lighting, but, it's always good for security purposes. One thing that's happened since 2013 is that back in 2013, the trail was, probably just dirt, if at all. Now we have a paved trail. It's getting used more. This year, it's going to be connected all the way to the casino in Everett, to the beach in Lynn. So we expect use will go up, as well as after-hour uses. So that would be very supportive. But generally, this user, I've never had any concerns being down there frequently, and having this kind of medical facility here is, I think, beneficial to the residents of Malden. So generally, I'm supportive, and also supportive of the staff conditions. Thank you very much. Great.
Thank you very much, Counselor. And next person, anyone who'd like to speak in favor of this petition?
Sorry. Excuse me, Peg Crow. I live at 9 Hancock Street and the Ward 1 City Councilor. I'm here in favor of this petition. They've been a wonderful business to have in the area, and they've done a lot of good for a lot of people. It's been I think, so it's great that they're continuing to provide that service. I think back to the 2013, I think the question about the bollards, exactly what the answer was. I do remember, I feel like that was a long time ago, but that, the cameras were, who's going to be responsible, who's liable for the cameras, who's taking care of the cameras. So there was lots of sort of questions. We can sort of revisit that and see if there's something changed. Actually, I was out there today and walking the dog, and I did not see the blue light. And usually there's a sign and a light, and it's pretty easy. So that I would like to make a condition that we revisit that, because if CVS was supposed to do it, or if this petitioner is supposed to do it, maybe we can get people together and that it just really happens, because I'm not sure why it didn't happen in 2013. I don't remember why that, because that to me is a wonderful spot to put one of those, the blue, emergency lights in. So I'd like to add that to the conditions. And I think there is some lighting with all the other conditions I agree to with. And there is some lighting, although I think I have to kind of look at that lighting again on the bike path. There are a few lights. I think a couple of them might be out, so we'll address that situation. But I think, again, they've been a wonderful business to have in our community, and they've done a lot of good for a lot of people. So I'm full support of this petition.
Thank you very much, Counselor. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor of this petition? Anyone else to speak in favor? Oh, thank you, Counselor. Thank you. Did you get one? Michelle, do you have anything to read in favor? No. Okay. And last call, anyone that would like to speak in favor of this petition? Seeing and hearing none, declare that part of the hearing closed. Is there anyone that would like to speak in opposition of this petition? Anyone to speak in opposition? Michelle, do you have anything to read in opposition?
No.
Last call for anyone in opposition. Seeing and hearing none, declare that part of the hearing closed. Michelle, could you take us through your staff report, please?
Yes. So we heard about the subject property. It is known and is numbered 219 Center Street. The property is known in the city also as 225 Center Street. There are 5 other storefronts at the property. This is located in the plaza known as Center Plaza. As the petitioner mentioned, I will call your attention to the fact, not only was there a condition in your special permit granted in 13-18, namely, this special permit may be exercised only by Doctors Express Urgent Care. That was condition 1 of that case. You have a copy of the case in your package. It is also pursuant to the definition in the city zoning ordinance that a special permit issued to a medical center is non-transferable and non-assignable. This staff report's incorporated by reference into the record of this hearing. I won't read every word. You see the plans and information that was submitted with the petition. I've also given you a copy of the site plan dated May 2nd, 2013, that was filed with the petition. You heard a similar petition, or we're going to hear a similar petition, that was allowed to be withdrawn without prejudice earlier this year in case 21-01. They submitted the land title survey plan dated May 2013, and I gave you a copy of that. So you'll have a reference as to the boundaries of the property, the parking in the building, et cetera. There was also a set of drawings submitted, which I believe was the original set that this board approved. It's entitled AFC Doctors Express Urgent Care. It's dated October 31st, 2013. You have a copy of just the first page that shows the egress floor plan. It's similar to a copy that the petitioner submitted, but that copy wasn't quite legible. This copy is more legible, so if you want to refer to that, as the petitioner said, there are no proposed changes to the floor plan or anything else with that premise. The zoning, the property is located in the Central Business Zoning District. The urgent care center is classified as a medical center use. It is allowed by special permit in this district, and it was allowed by the special permit granted in case 13-18. The other existing business uses at the property are restaurant, retail services, general offices. Those are allowed by right in this Central Business Zoning District. The dental office is now classified as a medical center use. That predates the special permit requirements. It is considered a pre-existing non-conforming use. I've given you the definition here. This is taken from the zoning ordinance, definition for medical center. I won't read that, but it's here, and that is in section 12.32 of 060 of the zoning ordinance. The direct abutters to the west are restaurants, dental office, medical center, retail services, and general offices. To the south and east is the abandoned railroad right-of-way, a portion of which is the public multimodal recreational trail, the Bites of the Sea Path Northern Strand Community Trail. The other portion is a public parking lot managed by the Malden Redevelopment Authority. To the north, on the other side of Route 60 Center Street, are retail sales, retail services, and the Chevres K-8 school. To the east, on the other side of Ferry Street, is a restaurant, residential units, and the abandoned railroad right-of-way and multimodal recreational trail continues. To the northeast, across the intersection, are retail sales with drive-through. That's the CVS that they were referring to. Surrounding land uses are residential, institutional, business, and industrial. In terms of dimensional controls, the medical center use is an allowed use of property in the Central Business Zoning District, and so it does not have to conform to most dimensional controls. The property complies with the only applicable dimensional controls, which are minimum lot area, frontage, and maximum height. Parking and loading requirements, the medical center use and existing business uses require no parking because all allowed non-residential uses in the Central Business Zoning District do not have to conform with off-street parking requirements. As depicted on the site plan, however, there are 24 parking spaces on site at the front of the building. The abutting contiguous parking lot to the west is located on property owned by the same property owner. That's at 321 Main Street. Parking spaces at the rear of the building are located on the abandoned railroad right-of-way. In terms of traffic impact, for the originally approved proposal and special permit granted in case 13-18, the board granted a waiver of the traffic impact study filing requirements, conditionally subject to owner's address of safety concerns regarding the vehicular crash history at the site. And that was recommended be done via compliance with the recommendation to protect the building with guardrail or bollards. That was described in correspondence dated June 18, 2013 from the city's peer reviewer. You also heard mention that the former building inspector had identified safety concerns with the site, specifically the area between the parking lot and the building. There had been recent and prior accidents where cars had driven through the building, and that's documented in an email from Scott Fitzpatrick dated June 18, 2013. Because of those concerns, the peer reviewer's recommendation and the concerns of the building inspector, the board granted the special permit subject to the condition: owner shall meet with mayor, ward, city councilor, and chairman of planning board to discuss A, installation of safety protection between building and head-on parking spaces located along the northern front side of the building, B, installation of the blinking blue emergency light and signage at intersection of Route 60 and Ferry Street, and C, installation of cameras and lighting in locations adjacent to the site along the Northern Strand Community Trail Bike to the Sea Path. The blinking blue emergency light, if you just give me 1 second, I do want to just make sure this is in the record. was recommended by the Malden Emergency Management Office. So that's a flashing lighting beacon. It's called a blinking blue light. It serves as a notice to the public of a declared snow emergency. Then there would also be signage installed at each corner of the intersection. So the board, as I mentioned earlier, did not require installation of those 3 items. But the board did require that that meeting be held. So the meeting did occur, so the condition was deemed to be met. As I mentioned, well, I had said none of the improvements had been done. We've since heard, and I was at the site, I did see the curb stops that were there. I'm not sure if those were added before or after the board's last decision. That I'm not 100% sure of. I know that the recommendation was for either bollards or guardrail. So I'm not 100% sure. I would have to look back at the pictures from 2013 to see if those were there. The blinking blue light, to my knowledge, is not at that intersection. It would be mounted up at the top of the signal heads, and then there'd be signage on all the corners. I was out there today and I did not see it. And in terms of cameras and lighting, I believe there's lighting on the back of the building above each of the doors, the exit doors on the back, and you can see that in the pictures. I don't think there's separate lighting per se on the trail or cameras. There may be cameras on the building. So that's what I can tell you factually about that. I do have an email from Kevin Duffy, the mayor's office, where he describes his recollection of the meeting and how those 3 issues were handled. I also have an email from the property owner, Representative Brian Cafferty, who describes how those 3 items were handled at the meeting. So I have that if anyone's interested. You've also heard testimony. I'll finish with just letting you know that under the current rules and regulations of this board that were just amended in 2019, the proposal would not require a traffic impact study. So, do you want me to go ahead and read the findings? So, findings for you to grant the special permit, or in this case, amend the special permit. You would need to find any creation or increase in violations of dimensional controls or parking requirements will not be more detrimental to the neighborhood. You would need to find the traffic and traffic patterns generated by the proposed use will not adversely impact any of the surrounding streets or create a traffic or safety hazard. You would need to find the proposed use will not be more detrimental to the neighborhood, is not in conflict with surrounding land uses, and is in the interest of the common good. Provided you can make those findings. So this recommendation was made prior to the public hearing, and provided that you make the required findings. The recommendation is to grant a new special permit subject to the following conditions. I've put the modifications in emphasis, in italics. So I will read them out loud and explain what's modified from case 13-18. That's a typo. It's case 13-18, not 1813. So 1, the new special permit, the new condition 1 would read, and again, you'll have a copy of the old decision, but this would be conditions for the new permit if you were to grant it tonight. This special permit is non-transferable and non-assignable and may be exercised only by AFC New England LLC. This special permit only allows occupancy of approximately 3,532 square feet at the space known as number 219 Center Street, and only for an urgent care center type of medical center use. No pharmacy is allowed, and no medical marijuana or narcotic drugs may be administered or stored on site. 2, 4 spaces in front of number 219 shall be dedicated to and marked with signage for patient parking. That's a condition from the original special permit, and there currently are 4 spaces marked as such. 3, only minor modifications of the floor plan are allowed, excluding changes to size of premises and number and kind of rooms. That's the same condition that was in the original special permit. 4, all signs are subject to sign design review. That's the same condition that was in the original special permit. 5, this is a new condition. Maintain cleanliness of that portion of the Northern Strand Community Trail bike to the sea path adjacent to the site, including but not limited to litter control and removal of overgrown vegetation. So that's a new condition, but it's a condition that you typically put in, or you put in a version of that condition in most special permits, if not all, for properties that abut the bike to the sea path, Northern Strand Community Trail. And then finally, 6, repair or replace sidewalks, including related incidental work around the perimeter of the site to the reasonable satisfaction of the DPW director. That is a condition you typically put in all your special permits, and it was in the original special permit.
Very good, thank you, Michelle.
And I would then just also, if I could recommend, you may want to give consideration to including a condition that has to do with installation of the blinking blue light at that intersection. That was brought up, and I can help you with language if you choose to include that as a condition.
Is that part of your recommendation?
I would recommend, yes, it is.
Okay, then why don't you list
Yes.
it?
So I would recommend actually, hold on 1 second, I'm just gonna read one thing. I was just stopping for a second because the information I received from Kevin Duffy, the business strategy officer of the city, regarding item B, which was the blinking blue light, he had written, and this is an email dated July 14, 2021, I have spoken with members of the emergency management team and no decision was made on installing a blue light at the intersection. So I just wanted to make sure I was reading that correctly. They didn't recommend against it, they just said no decision had been made. So I will recommend that. So installation of a flashing, blinking blue light at the traffic lighting system of the adjacent intersection, Route 60 Center Street and Ferry Street, and signage at each corner of the intersection, with signage at each corner of the intersection. Or actually, it's better written here, installation of blinking blue emergency light and signage at intersection of Route 60 and Ferry Street. So that's what I would recommend.
Okay, nothing else?
No.
Very good. Does anyone have any questions for Michelle? Eric Henry.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Michelle, in that letter from Mr. Duffy, can you say what it says about maybe the cameras explicitly?
Yes, it says, and this is, he's saying to the best of, he attended the meeting, this is to the best of his recollection. So that's item C. He writes, he recalls the landlord was strongly opposed to the condition because of assumed liability. He writes, they felt that item was not the responsibility of the business to assume, but theirs. So he's saying the tenant shouldn't assume it, the owner would, and they were not willing to do so. That's the owner, that is, so.
As the obligator, the or. So the owner's going to take ownership back of this franchise, so it's not upon the tenant. Liability is no longer upon the tenant, it's back on the owner, if I'm not
The
mistaken.
property owner, meaning, I'm sorry, not the franchise owner.
Okay,
The franchisor is still a tenant.
okay.
This is referring, the people who attended this meeting were the property owner, mayor, ward, city councilor, and chairman of the planning board. And he's saying that the owner, who's the landlord, was in opposition to the installation because of assumed liability.
And said owner is not present tonight.
The owner's representative is present.
Okay, great. So I wouldn't want to be presumptuous, but I'd like to make an amendment to the recommendations that the petitioner install lighting. I'd like to make that the petitioner install lighting as recommended by the previous reports.
You sure you don't mean a camera? Because a couple people have already
That's
said
exactly
how
what-
well lighted, how well lit it is.
Let me withdraw the proposal and resubmit. I'd like to make a recommendation that the petitioner install cameras in accordance with previous testimony. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that it, Eric? Yes, sir. Okay, Ken Antonucci. Oh, Michelle, did you have something?
I just was going to add one thing. Typically, when you put that condition in, you say it's locations subject to, or determined by ward, city councilor, and police chief. Usually, they work together to determine the appropriate locations.
Okay.
So I would recommend if you say installation of cameras along the bike path adjacent to the site, that the locations to be determined by the ward, city councilor, and police chief. I would recommend that. Thank you.
Eric, is that,
I'm just saying I was amenable to that. Thank you.
okay, thank you. So next person, Ken Antonucci.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Michelle, on the original condition 5, the first portion of it, I just wanted to confirm all those original items, the maintain fencing, landscaping, bike rack, and bench along the northern strand, that's all been completed?
No, the issues with fencing, bicycle rack, and bench have come up in other cases. That used to be the condition that we would recommend. And then there was the case where we were told by National, not National Grid, the gas line, that they could not install, they did not want petitioners installing any type of fixtures. The fencing would be, the bike rack would be, and the bench would be. And I know Council Winslow's here, and he may have more info if you wanted about that, but I recall that is why we stopped putting that in as a condition, because when the petitioners tried to do it, they were told not to do it. It wasn't recommended by
Yeah,
the-
that is a
because
recommendation.
there's a gas line that runs, I guess, along it or adjacent to it.
Yeah,
So that's why
typically-
we stopped that. So I guess the one thing I did miss, though, was landscaping. The cleanliness part of it is clear.
Okay,
you
yeah,
know.
because that is a standard
Yeah.
recommendation.
So that's why I only carried through the maintain cleanliness part.
Yep, no, that's fine.
The landscaping, I'm not sure if you wanted to add that, you could. I must have missed that, so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're all set, Ken? Eric McCush.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This actually might be a better question for Attorney Callahan, but when they changed from Doctors Express to AFC, was that a corporate change, or just doing DBA from, as AFC, going from Doctors Express?
As I understand it, AFC Urgent Care bought out Doctors Express as, meaning expanding their existing franchise and taking on Doctors Express, but changing the trade name to AFC Urgent Care for nationwide, or at least wherever Doctors Express was, that trade name was being utilized.
So there's a new corporation running it?
Well, the tenant didn't change because North Shore Medical Ventures remained as the tenant under the special permit, 2013 permit, but they changed the trade name because the franchise system, for lack of a better word, better characterization, changed.
Okay, thank you.
You all set, Eric? Thank you, Counselor. Any other questions for Michelle? No questions, Michelle. Is there a motion? Ken Antonucci.
And Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to grant the new special permit, subject to the 8 conditions discussed.
Very good. Ken's made a motion to approve with the 8 conditions identified. Is there a second? Eric McCush.
I'll second that motion.
Eric McCush has seconded Ken's motion. Okay, give me a second here to catch up.
Ken Antonucci,
Yes.
Diane Chuha,
Yes.
Patrick Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Tawadej Gabor Selassie,
Yes.
Patrick Hayes,
Yes.
Eric Henry,
Yeah.
Eric McCush,
Yes.
Henry Susi,
Yes.
Chuck Ioven.
Yes. Petition's been granted with conditions. Thank you. Okay, Ken, if you could read the notice for 75 Broadway, please.
The Malden Planning Board will hold a public hearing in the Herbert L. Jackson Council Chamber, Malden City Hall, 215 Pleasant Street, Malden, Mass. At 7 p.m. on Wednesday, July 14th, 2021, on the petition of DE Foods LLC on behalf of property owner KLT Realty LLC. Permit application number CMID 036821-2021. Seeking a special permit under sections 12.12.060 and 12.12.150 of Chapter 12, Revised Ordinances of 2020, as amended of the City of Malden, to allow fast food service, restaurant use, and accessory drive-through use of property in a highway business zoning district, namely to reoccupy the existing building at the property known as and numbered 75 Broadway, Malden, Mass., and also known by Malden City Assessor's Parcel ID number 123-486-608.
Thank you very much, Ken. Is the petitioner present?
Yes, my name is Nicole Duquette with Greenman Peterson. I'm here representing DE Foods.
Address for the record, please, miss?
It's 30 Rolling Hill Road, Hampstead, New Hampshire.
Very good, thank you.
I do have two different versions of presentations because I didn't know which one you'd prefer. I do have boards that I can put on an easel, or I can do a PowerPoint presentation, whichever one works for you.
If I may, I think the electronic is better, that way the public can see it. So I will walk you through the steps. If you, do you have a laptop or a, okay. So, I'll put the podium and everything together, but you can get started. Plug in the ClickShare, the little, yes, plug that into your laptop. And did it light up in blinking? Then it should eventually open up onto your screen. Once it opens up onto your screen, okay, you already had it, okay. You chose which one to do, great, so it's working.
Okay, I didn't choose anything, but
Okay,
if it's working, it's working.
and so let me just get it up here, so hold on one
All
second.
right.
So, lift down, heavy.
I know I'm a little shorter than some of the other presenters, so is this okay?
Yeah, but you can move the mic down if you want, it just wasn't picking up.
Okay.
Just let me get the other thing here, so AV, routing, combined. Okay, so, hold on. Let's go go back to this. Projector is on. Rerouting combined. Okay, so
Excellent.
we're seeing on this screen what the
Yes.
audience can see behind us,
Wonderful.
if everything is working right.
Thank you
Okay.
very much. Again, my name is Nicole Duquette with GPI, or Greenman Peterson. Here with me also is Heather Montecup, who is our traffic engineer, also from Greenman Peterson, and Dan Whitney from DE Foods. So the site is located, you can see the little red marks on there. The site is located at at 75 Broadway Street within the Highway Business District. To the north of it, and north is to the left on this one, is a car service repair shop. To the west, I believe there's a new car wash that's being constructed, and to the southwest is the Broadway Plaza. Just to the south of the site is the Burger King site, and over to the east, there are some residential lots, as well as the Holy Cross Cemetery, which abuts our property. The site in 2004 was approved by the Zoning Board of Appeal with a special permit for a fast food restaurant with drive-through. And that fast food restaurant was KFC and Long John Silver. So it was approved with a special permit for both the fast food use and the drive-through, along with several variances. Variances to the side setback, the parking variance, reducing the parking spaces from 87 to 35, parking setbacks, a loading zone variance to allow a site without a loading dock, a loading area. And the dumpster location needed a variance from 20 to 10 feet to the property line, and also sign variances for both the freestanding and the wall signs. The store closed, the restaurant closed in 2007. So since then, it has been vacant. There has been, I believe, another site plan in for this site, but that failed to go forward. So we are looking to reestablish this as a KFC, to use the same exact footprint that was approved in the 2004, which now needs a special permit through the zoning changes, now needs a special permit through the planning board. So we are looking to reestablish that use, using the existing building footprint. I believe it's 3,460 square feet of restaurant space. So that would be reestablished. The footprint would be renovated, as well as the exterior to the building too. The 35 parking spaces would remain as is, with the exception that the pavement would be repaired as necessary, pavement resealed and restriped. The dumpster enclosure would remain the same location, but it does need a good power washing, and it will be painted, and new gates will be affixed to the enclosure. As you can see, the drive-through would remain the same. And I do want to mention that there is enough queue from the window to the, where you see the concrete pad for the dumpster. There's enough queue for 11 cars in there to stack. Throughout the site, if you bring it back to Broadway, there's more than, the site could hold more than 20 cars before it would go into Broadway.
So where are you measuring the 11 cars to?
The 11 cars is from the driveway window, and I wish I had a pointer.
Okay, the drive-through window.
The drive-through window, and then there's it's a little bit more than 11 spaces, 11 queue spaces.
That
from the
takes you
driveway
to the
window.
ordering menu?
From, what's that?
To the ordering menu?
No, from the driveway through window to the beginning of the drive-through entrance. Because there's an island, there's a little island where it enters in to the drive-through lane.
Okay.
So it's right next to the dumpster is where the queue starts.
Okay,
And
I
that's
see what you
11
mean. Yep.
11Q.
Okay, thank you.
Also to remain would be the light poles would remain the same, fixtures would be replaced if necessary. The snow storage would remain the same as what was approved in 2004, which still meets today's regulations. The landscaping regulations have changed since the original 2004 approval, and honestly, the landscaping out there has either died away or is overgrown to the point where it's just easier just to replant new. So we're proposing a whole new landscaping plan for this area. It does require, because we have 35 parking spaces, it does require 4 shade trees. So we are proposing in the front island, we're proposing a Sergeant cherry tree that has the pink flowers in the spring. Between the parking spaces and the drive-through, there will be 2 honey locust trees. And towards the rear of the site, we are proposing a green pillar pin oak in the back to have our 4 shade trees on the site. Along the southern, or if you look at the page, it's the right, along that southern property line between Burger King and our site, there is a row of, I believe those are arborvitaes. I'm not a landscaper, I apologize if I say it wrong, but there are evergreen bushes in between the 2 sites. Michelle had brought up that we did need to increase the landscaping, the residential buffer in the back. So that is not shown on this plan, but we'd be willing to do something to plant either, I personally think rhododendrons would look nice back there. There's a lot of shade back there because of the trees, so we'd need to be careful of what we plant back there. So either that or we could plant arborvitaes, but the rhododendrons might last a bit longer and provide a little bit more screening. With that being said, before I get into the framework plan, how this complies with the framework plan, I'd like to invite Heather Montecup up to talk about traffic.
Good evening, everyone. For the record, I'm Heather Montecup with Greenman Peterson, and not only are we the site engineers, but also the traffic engineers for the project before you tonight. We did prepare a traffic study, coordinated the scope with the city. We looked at existing conditions. 2021 did new counts out there. Our study area included Taylor Street, the 2 Burger King driveways, and our 2 site driveways, which in turn also ended up including the new car wash driveways across the street. We looked at public transportation. Like I said, we did traffic counts. We had to do COVID adjustments, seasonal adjustments. We looked at collisions, vehicle speed, site distances out there. We also looked at future conditions 2026. That's a 5-year design horizon consistent with the city requirements. We looked at historical growth, any developments that were approved and not built yet. All those numbers were included in our future traffic volumes. As mentioned, this previously was a fast food restaurant with drive-through, but because it's been empty for so long, we did not take any credit for, reoccupancy, obviously. We just said, well, the new trips. So the new trips to the site, we looked at the weekday AM, weekday PM, and Saturday midday peak hours. The new trips to the site are 139 total trips in and out during the weekday AM peak hour, 113 during the weekday PM peak hour, and 190 during the Saturday midday peak hour. As you can imagine, a fast food restaurant pulls a lot of traffic just from traffic that's already on the roadway, right, on their way to somewhere else. We call that a pass-by trip. So once you take into account the pass-by, the new trips to the area leading outside the study area that we looked at would be 71 new trips in the AM, 57 new trips in the PM, and 96 new trips on a Saturday. So once you take those trips, distribute them on the roadway, we have traffic increases north and south on Broadway and out Taylor Street, anywhere from 5 to 44 vehicles in a peak hour. So it's about one additional trip to the area every 1 minute, 20 seconds to 12 minutes during the peaks. We do have a drive-through. It's 12 feet wide. As Nicole had mentioned, accommodates 11 vehicles. That meets the city requirements. In addition, in our traffic study, we provided some Institute of Transportation Engineers, ITE, data that says restaurants of this type, chicken restaurants, have a max queue out of all the places that they studied, anywhere from 2-vehicle queue to 9-vehicle queue. So the 11 vehicles can accommodate that. We did do capacity and queue analysis at all the study area intersections. The project does not change level of service at the Taylor Street intersection, at the Burger King intersections. Our site driveways, obviously no traffic today, so we've got some traffic in the future. Still, driveways are expected to operate at level of service C or better, which is acceptable. VC ratios are under 1.0, which means they're under capacity, and vehicle queues on the driveway are expected to be one vehicle or less. The project, so anyway, the conclusion of our traffic study was that based on the findings, the proposed restaurant can be safely and efficiently accommodated under the existing roadway network. The traffic study was peer-reviewed. We received a letter from Kenneth Petraglia dated June 30th, 2021. He generally was in agreement with our methodologies, our capacity analysis, things like that. His comments included things like faded pavement markings, missing signage, the Burger King crash history, and the Burger King drive-through queue. So if you've read the staff report, there's some recommended mitigation measures that were recommended in his letter. One is the installation of stop signs at not only our driveways, which we're more than willing to do, but at other driveways, at other private businesses along the corridor, either adjacent to Taylor Street, the Burger King, things like that. We did prepare a response to comment to address the 3 things I'm about to talk about. It was dated yesterday. We just submitted it yesterday, July 13th, 2021. And in that, we said that although we're definitely willing to install the stop signs on our site, we don't really have the right to install a stop sign on private property. Not even quite sure the city does, but the city can tell the private entity to do it, so that's fine. They can be told to put it, but we're just not sure that's in our purview to be able to install stop signs. So we were saying in our response to comment letter that we would put them in our driveway, but not at the other driveway locations. Another comment that he made was to restripe the pavement markings along Broadway. They are faded out there today. And so we took a look at the study area from Taylor Street to our northern driveway, which is our exit-only drive-through. It's about 750 feet. So not quite sure the benefit of restriping 750 feet out of the whole corridor, if that would matter. So, you know, we kind of felt like it didn't really matter all that much, and that the restriping would be part of maintenance of the municipality. So that's how we responded to that comment, but again, we're here tonight to talk about those things. And the last comment was about the queuing on the Burger King site. In his letter, it was identified that the Burger King queue exits out onto Broadway. So as you know, there's 2 lanes in each direction, so cars traveling southbound sometimes have to wait in Broadway to turn left into the Burger King. So it was recommended that we discuss, or we work with the Burger King operator owner to try to come up with a new site plan for them to help control their queuing, because there is some probably unused parking in the back that they could extend the parking queue. Although we can appreciate that comment, we're just not quite sure. It's our responsibility to fix the queuing on a butter's site. So, you know, that's how we we just feel like that would be an issue whether we were reoccupying the site or not. So we kind of feel that that's not something that should be put on us to do. It should be something that the Burger King owner needs to rectify with the city. So that is how we responded to the comments. We definitely want to hear input from the city and hear what you have to say about that, so we can try to figure out the conditions of approval for tonight. Thank you.
Miss, can I ask you a few questions? Did you prepare the traffic report?
I did, yeah. I'm the
Why did
supervisor
you
of it.
describe it as if the Kentucky Fried Chicken Long John Silver's just shut down?
It's vacant.
It's vacant for
It's
14
vacant.
years.
Yes. Yep.
But the way you word it throughout the whole report is that it's occupied by a 3,500 square foot vacant KFC in Long John Silver. If I didn't know better, I'd be under the assumption that the previous operation had just closed down.
Well, I think our point in that was that it was approved for the same exact use before. In some communities, if it's the same use, you just, it would kind of be an administrative thing because you just reoccupy it with the same use. There was never a change in use. It wasn't like it went from a fast food restaurant to a CVS and now we're putting it back to a fast food restaurant. So I think that was just our point in that at one point in time, the very use before it was the same exact use that we're proposing today.
Okay. And then the second question I have with regard to your issues with Burger King and helping them deal with that traffic problem, I understand that you're not responsible for their operation, and I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
But where it does become your problem is when the queuing that's a problem for them is happening in front of your store. What are your thoughts on how that's going to be resolved? And I'm talking more about the southbound traffic that's queuing up, trying to make a left into your facility and trying to get into Burger King, more so than the other. Because initially I was thinking that people queuing up and loading the queue from yours would then back out on Broadway and potentially block their exit. But I think with the almost, 270 feet, that's not likely to happen.
Yeah, we're not concerned about our queue coming out exactly and blocking their exit-only driveway. I understand what you're saying.
But what about the southbound
but the
side? What are your
southbound side.
plans for that?
So, I mean, I don't know specifically if, how far that Burger King queue comes back. I'm sure it's during the midday peak hour, right, when people are getting lunch and whatnot. There are 2 lanes on Broadway, so I would assume that if vehicles are trying to turn left into our site, they would just have to get into the queue, right, and wait for that to go. I just don't see how we're going to be able to work with, like, what would the condition be, like? What if Burger King doesn't want to fix their queue?
I guess what I'm asking you more is when it becomes a problem in front of your facility,
Right.
what are you going to do about it?
I'd probably make a complaint to the city and see if Burger King can rectify it. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, we can talk about that, I guess.
Okay, well, but I guess what I'm envisioning is that you're going to add to that southbound queue with people trying to make the left into your facility also. So you really haven't thought through that?
Well, our analysis shows that there's enough gaps in traffic to get the traffic in. The reason it's backing up is because of the way they're, if the drive-through queue was back, right, for the Burger King, I think there would be plenty of gaps in traffic for cars to enter the site. Like, if you're not trying to get into the drive-through lane at Burger King, you could probably enter the site, right? If you're just going to look to park. We wouldn't have that issue on ours because we have so much queuing that our drive-through queue wouldn't back up and continue to back up onto, just based on the data that we have for our type of restaurant versus a hamburger restaurant, right?
Okay.
Queues are longer for hamburger restaurants than they are for a Kentucky Fried Chicken, or I'm sorry, KFC. So I do feel that, I understand what you're saying, we may be quote-unquote adding to the queue, but I do feel that we are going to have adequate room in our site to accommodate the entering vehicles, so when there are adequate gaps in traffic to turn left into our site, that they can be accommodated on site without the queue blocking getting in.
Okay, thank you. Question for you also. What are the hours of operation?
I'm not sure what the hours of operation are.
More specifically, does Kentucky, KFC do
breakfast.
breakfast? I didn't think
And-
they did.
Yeah, and we analyzed for it. I mean, the numbers that we used were for fast food restaurant, which is a whole gamut of things, right? It's hamburger restaurants, it's chicken restaurants, it's a whole bunch of
Okay,
things.
so you don't have your own data, you use the
We did not,
ITE
yes, we
data.
used I'm sorry, I noticed that when I said ITE about the queue parking, that I didn't say that about the trip generation. We used the ITE trip generation manual for fast food restaurant with drive-through. So, I'm not gonna stand up here and say that it's gonna be less, but, you know, it's that kind of fast food restaurant is a lot of burger restaurants in the data. And this is
Okay.
a chicken restaurant.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
So just to go on with the presentation, Nicole Duquette with GPI again. One thing I do want to mention too with the Burger King queue is by reestablishing this use, hopefully you're giving your residents of Malden and the surrounding communities another option to go to for that quick meal. So the patrons of that would go to Burger King may see the queue in the drive-thru and say, I'm not going to wait in this, and actually go to KFC instead. So there is that option. So that queue will most likely be lessened a little bit by the establishment of this use too. Going on to the framework plan, I did read through that, and I just wanted to mention a few things that are complying with the framework plan. One of them is that I saw mentioned a couple of times about the front yard strip, and that no parking was to be, they recommended no parking within the front yard. This site is probably one of the only sites along the way. Burger King has a little bit of landscaping, but this is one of the only ones along Broadway in that area that actually does not have pavement within their front yard. And the building is set back further than the setback line. If you see here, it's not showing up. Hold on. There we go. If you see here, this dashed line right there is actually our setback line. So our sidewalk is at that setback, that front setback line, not even the building.
Is that further or shallower than McDonald's, which is right up the street?
I'm not sure about McDonald's. It's further away than Burger King is. It's about same as the car vehicle repair place next door. But the car vehicle repair place has, I'll show you. Oops. The car vehicle repair place has a lot of pavement in front. So as you can see from this, that's not going to show up for you. This is our site right here. This is the car vehicle repair place. There's pavement all along the front here. This is the Burger King site. They do have a little bit pavement here, but they're within the setback. And they have pavement within the front setback over here as well. And if you look down the line, there is no landscaping islands in front of the site for any of the surrounding uses. So I did want to mention that because that is something that is heavily recommended in the framework plan. There is things about the shade trees and the planted islands as well, which is why we tried to provide a significant amount of shrubs in the front of the site, as well as around the site in general, where we could. The other thing that was mentioned was the pedestrian circulation. And This site actually has a very nice connection to the municipal sidewalk from the front door of the building to the sidewalk. What it is missing is a bicycle rack. And if the board would want one, we could put one on site. And we think that would be a good idea in this area, especially where it looks like you are gearing towards providing a bicycle, more bicycle circulation within Broadway. Under the corridor economics and the framework plan, it does ask about the uses that the residents want, and I do want to point out that 3 of the uses that were listed, well, 2 with the in-person visits and 1 in the online polling, talked about food takeout, dining, fast casual and sit-down restaurants. So it does seem like there is a need for this in the Broadway area. Also, another thing was to minimize parking. And I did ask Dan Whitney from DE Foods what he likes to see for parking for his KFCs. And he likes to get 30. So 35, he's thrilled with 35 parking spaces. For this site, 85, you're never going to use all those parking spaces. And I believe that the framework plan was trying to minimize the amount of parking spaces to the actual need of the lot. So this site actually does that, partly because it's a smaller lot, but partly because that's all it needs. The other thing is the parking is to the side and the rear. That is done on this site, and no parking within the front setback, like I said. So we are requesting, just to sum it up, we are requesting a special permit for this, for the fast food restaurant and the drive-through use for this site. And I did submit a letter meeting the criteria that I found in the regulations. I think it matches up a little bit with the criteria that Michelle had put in the conditions. The one thing I do want to mention, just going back to showing we have this nice plan for Burger King. Burger King, if they did redevelop their site, they do have more than enough parking space. They would never, as a competitor, I mean, they're not a direct competitor, but they are a competitor. They're not going to go out of their way to make it so that we go right next to them. So, but they do have options if they were to redevelop their site, and I just wanted to mention those. They do have plenty of parking spaces that they could eliminate. Not all of those spaces are being used. And they could, if they wanted to, extend their queue towards the back of the site like we are doing, like we have. Our queue is all the way in the back. This is the drive-through lane here, so this is where it starts, and it goes all the way around the building. If you see the Burger King queue, the reason why there's a problem is because it's just around the building in the front of the site, and the queue ends relatively close to Broadway. So if they wanted to, they could bring their queue towards the back of the site. So I just wanted to mention those couple of things that if they do want to redevelop in the future, that could be done.
Before you go off this slide, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Are you going to have any use for the pass-through from Burger King to KFC?
My understanding, that was put in before the 2004 approval, and it was before there was 2 like uses, and it was to provide connectivity. Where the Burger King and KFC were so like in uses, it wasn't used. So there is an agreement, there is an easement for DE Foods to use that easement, but it has never, KFC, Long John Silver had never taken advantage of that.
Okay, because as I recall, it was for trash pickup. It was being used for trash pickup, ease of trash pickup, getting at the dumpster way back when, but you're saying you don't need to do that anymore.
We don't need that, because these are actually front, this is the dumpster right here, and the gates are in the front. So it's a perfect they have the front loaders, they come in here, pick up, and then they can leave. So, there's
Okay, no, as
there's
long as you don't
bollards
have a
there
need
right
for it
now.
anymore.
Yeah, there's bollards there today, so you can't even use it, so. So if you have any more questions, Dan, Heather, and myself are here to answer anything. Thank you.
Yeah, has Dan been able to establish what the hours of operation are?
I'm Dan Whitney, 3 Peas Road, Upton, Massachusetts. I work for DE Foods. Yes, we would be, most likely would be 10 a.m. or 10:30, and we would probably be 11 or midnight or something like that. Again, it depends on businesses, and I honestly, off the top of my head, do not know if there's a cutoff in Malden. I apologize. If there's a late night where we have to stop, but probably midnight Friday, Saturday, and then 11 o'clock on other days.
Okay, and then what's your average shift staff in numbers?
Okay, we would probably be probably around 7 or 8 would be working on a typical shift. We'd be 2 shifts, a morning shift and an afternoon shift, an evening shift, and we'd have 7. We'd have probably 35 to 40 employees. The good news about us is that we do hire local folks. And obviously, we love people that live nearby because that's good for their getting to work with ease and all that other stuff. So we certainly will work very hard to hire people that are nearby. Do you have any other questions on it?
Yes, I'm sorry, I was just
Yes.
making some notes on that. How do you typically handle your deliveries? Do you typically do that in the morning or before your 10 o'clock open? Do you do it
Depends.
earlier in the week?
We can do all kinds of things. We do depends on the municipality. We do key drops, which would be at the night, and this being more of a commercial area. They may deliver this very early in the morning, so it doesn't do anything to traffic, so the trucks can come. We can have a key drop delivery. So we have a lot of flexibility with our distributors when they come and when they don't. So we would definitely be able to work around that and make it better. So.
But you haven't established anything yet?
Oh, no, sir, not yet.
What about you've got a trash removal plan already? Because I imagine there's a lot of dirty waste.
Well, we typically have, a typical store will be two pickups a week, both cardboard and trash. And we haven't, we use several vendors, but I think on the North Shore, we're more waste management. But most of ours are McNamara, which is, a regional company down in the Stoughton area, so.
Okay. How long would it take you to renovate what you have there? Because it's interesting, it's been vacant so long that it doesn't even have a look of a KFC.
Right, we think between 6 and 8 weeks, probably closer to 6. It really depends. We don't know, like the mechanicals, all the stuff on the roof, HVAC, exhaust. We assume they're no good, but we don't know that yet. And actually, if you don't mind, sir, let's take a step back for a second. The operators of this restaurant back in the early 2000s was Kentucky Fried Chicken Corporation. We are a franchise group. We have 52 restaurants. We're Massachusetts owned. In fact, we bought all the corporate stores in Massachusetts, and we're doing quite well in Massachusetts. They were struggling. We think Malden is a great place to live and work, and we think it's a real opportunity. We actually bumped into this. We were looking for a new site in Stoneham, and the broker said to us, I think there's like maybe a dental place, or there's kind of an odd-shaped building across the street that had a drive-through. May have been a bank at some time. And we're looking there, and I look across the street, and I go, that was a KFC. And that's how this all started. We actually approached KFC, they have the lease. They've been paying the lease for the last 14 years. We're very different. I think I think I've heard from Michelle and some other people about the concern about the condition of the property and how the landscape's not being maintained and the building looks awful. We're very proud of the buildings we make. We hope you'll be proud of the buildings that we have there if you see to approve us. We have, I said 52 restaurants. Of our 52 restaurants, 10 of them were in the top 1.5% operated restaurants in the United States, and 3 of those were in the city of Boston. Right, this is all tough places to do business, but we're very proud of our people and very proud of what we do, and we think that we're going to do a lot of great things to make this place, you know, a real contributor to Malden. So.
Where's your closest facility? Do you do Chelsea and Saugus?
No, 2 other guys. In fact, you did very good. You probably picked the only 2 that aren't. We have all of the city of Boston. We have Woburn, Lawrence, Methuen. That's kind of the closest. And Chelsea's one guy, and Saugus is another one. So that's not us. Like I said, all the ones in Boston are ours. Probably the closest to us probably would be Alston, maybe.
Okay. No, I was just curious.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay, anything else that you want to, oh, wait, hold on a second. There's a question from one of the board members, Ken Antonucci.
Yeah, I was just wondering, is it just going to be solely KFC, or, because the
Yes.
2 that you mentioned had?
It will only be one. There was a strategy back, in the 90s of multi-branding, and the complexity of multi-branding has stopped Yum Brands and said, we don't do that anymore. So existing units can continue, like Woburn is a KFC Taco Bell, for instance. But for now, it's a single brand, and we hope we're going to give Burger King a run for their money on chicken sandwiches, so as we hope. So.
Thank you.
Eric McCush.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Whereas KFC already failed there before, why do you think that this is going to be successful? Is that the whole landscape has changed, or you guys are going to do it better than KFC did it before? Or it's like you're just putting something back that was already there that didn't work?
I don't, it makes no sense to me why the store was not successful from before. I wasn't here, though. I don't know. I've been doing this for 30 years, and this has a lot of the signs of a very good Kentucky Fried Chicken on its own. I don't know what they did before. I can just tell you everything from the population to the demographics to the competitive set there. We think we're going to do very well above. We think we're going to do above national average. We think so. We'll find out soon, but we hope to find out soon. But we think we're pretty good operators. We're not perfect, and if we work with the city, so if there is an issue, we will correct it. We'll do the best we can. We think we're going to put a lot of money into the building, so we think we're going to do quite well here, but again, you don't know till you do it, so we're going to go try it.
All right. One other question too is, what do you think is the average wait time for a car driving through the drive-through pickup window?
Okay, well, we actually know. So we typically, we actually measure window and order time. So you take the 2 times together, and then you add for a total, right? So national average for Kentucky Fried Chicken is about 160 to 165 seconds if you add the 2 of them together. We average about 130 seconds, so that is 65 and 65, just for round numbers, is actually a little longer at the window, but we're 65, so we are faster than national. We do that for, we have the right equipment, we train people right, we do all those things to do that, to move people through. So we think it's about, so it's just over a minute a car.
From ordering to picking up?
Pardon me?
From ordering to picking up?
Yeah, you take order time plus pickup time. So there's a queue, like if there's 11 cars in line, that's time in between. But the time that you're actually doing stuff, so per car, it's 1:30. Does that make sense?
So you take the order, it's about a minute, and then you fulfill the order
at the window about a minute.
Once they get to the window.
And then you have the cars in line that you add up. So it's called order to delivery. There's another time that you use for the total time on site. And so I think, I'm going to shoot from the hip. I'm going to say we're probably in the At peak time, we're probably between about 5.5 minutes, something like that, order to delivery. But we don't normally track that number, so I don't have that at the top of my head. But we do move people along pretty quickly. We know, every time, first of all, consumers are extremely busy. Consumers, especially with the whole pandemic thing, drive-throughs just exploded, so the use of drive-throughs. And the idea that we do it efficiently is really important for our execution, right? For our customer or our guest satisfaction, so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Ken Antonucci again.
Yeah, just as a history lesson, the original KFC, when I was a little kid, was at the current McDonald's site. That used to be a KFC.
Oh, really?
And then the old style with,
Yeah,
the bucket in the air.
Yeah, the pagoda roof, you had the funny, yeah. There's a few of those around, you can see them, they're brown.
Just a little throwback.
Yeah.
Okay, you all set, Ken? Thank you. Eric Henry.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just wanted to ask the petitioner, you did mention that you are the proprietor of, the owner of all of Boston's stores in Boston?
No, I work for the owner.
Okay, understanding that, what is the ranking of the store is closest to me at work? Mass Ave and Columbia Road. I'm just curious.
Columbia Road was in the top 1.5% restaurants in the country. I sure as hell hope we do a good job with you, I hope. So,
I'll go ask my guys at Eversource. We'll see what they're.
Yeah.
Okay, actually, if I would just want a question for you, maybe a traffic engineer, you may know this one as well. She did mention something that's about not a change in use, but, and I totally agree with you on that. It's not a change in use, I think, but it's more so we're asking a question in changes in behavior. I don't think he said there was, it's not going to be open for breakfast?
The hours of operation, he said, would be sometime between 10 and 10:30 would be the opening hours. Peak hours of the adjacent street traffic, we typically look at the peak period between 7 to 9. So we did assume that there would be some traffic then, because like I said, we use the generic ITE numbers, which would include a Burger King or a McDonald's that does have breakfast sandwiches. That is not the case for this. But I guess, since we have a traffic study on record, and if we do get approval from the city, if they decided to do breakfast, I assume they could do it. I don't know if they would need further approvals for that, but at least it would be included in the traffic study.
So you said 7 to 9 was the hours of study AM?
7 to 9 a.m. is what we look at, and then we
And
take,
what day of the week was that?
well, I can tell you that. Just give me one moment. It was, of course, I open up to Saturday.
I'm going to ask about that too.
Thursday, April 8th, and the Saturday, April.
So you also went back that Thursday in the afternoon?
No, we did Saturday midday peak hours. So we did a Thursday AM. We counted traffic from 7 a.m. to 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. And then we took the peak hour of that 2 hours. So, and then we looked at traffic between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. on that Thursday. And
That's
then we
4 to
went-
6?
Yep. And we took the peak hour of that traffic, and then we looked on Saturday. Saturday gets a little bit more extended because people are out and about. Looked from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., so it's a 3-hour window, and then we take the peak of that.
So only one measure on Saturdays?
Only midday, correct, on a Saturday.
Why?
That was the scope. That's very typical of a use like this. Any retail use kind of like this, you would look at PM and Saturday, and the Saturday is usually the Saturday midday. That's what the data is for.
Saturday night, man. I yield.
Thank you.
You all said, Eric? Good, thanks. No one else has any questions? Michelle?
Thank you. So could you just explain again, you're leasing the property?
Yes,
Okay, and who are you, you could come up, thank you. Who are you leasing it from?
There's an existing lease that we're going to take over, and then we're negotiating with the landlord to extend that for a longer period of time. So we're in the process of the negotiation. We hope to have locked down 20 years, plus we usually do 2 5s after that. So we're trying to lock 30 years in.
Okay, so you won't own it, you will lease the
No,
property?
only
Okay.
lease, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so do you, Can you speak at all about the property? Who owns the fencing on the property that's all collapsed?
The fencing on, between us and Burger King or the stuff in the back?
Well, a lot of it's collapsed, right. So between you and Burger King and, in general, the fencing, do you know if that's on your property?
I do not know. We will address the fencing, though. I mean, it's going to reflect on us, so we'll take care of the fence.
Okay. And what about the condition of the property? I was out there today, there were bags of trash, all kinds of litter, debris. Can you speak at all to that? I understand it's been a problem for years, so do you have any information about that?
The only thing is that we have not taken over, it's just very similar to the person before us. We haven't taken the lease over. We're going to. As soon as we do, we'll clean it up immediately, and then we're going to get on construction as quickly as we can, so, and we'll maintain it, so.
Okay, thank you. This might be a question, thank you, for your, well, actually, before you leave. So in terms of the building facade, are you doing anything to the parapet facade? Are you changing any of that structure? It looked like you were squaring it off. Could you speak a little bit to what you're going to do to the building?
Yeah.
Please, thank you.
I'm just a chicken guy, but I do pretend to be construction too, so I can help you a little bit. Okay, so we do chop off the, I think there's something, there's like a thing for Long John Silver's, so we will square that off. You put a new trim cap on there, and then that sign is, yeah, we're doing a half banner. So basically, that is a sign affixed to the building, so that will be just bolted and put onto that side, and then there'll be lights, up-down lights pointing down on the property. So.
Okay, so it won't be any higher than it is? You're going to
No,
level it off?
it will be a little lower.
Okay, and is that paint or is that new siding that you're putting on it?
That will be, I think this building is, we're going to be painting that and repairing whatever is that there. I believe that's EFS. Yeah.
Okay, and in terms of repairing, you mentioned just sealing and repairing parts of the parking lot, but the parking lot was in very rough shape when I was there. You're not gonna redo the whole parking lot?
I don't know at this time, but I can tell you when we're done, the parking lot will be in a condition that, you know, we want people to come in and give us another try. You know, obviously 10 years ago, it didn't go so well, and so we're gonna make it look nice on the outside. So we'll repair it as best we can, and we'll go ahead and seal and stripe. I think it'll look great, so.
Okay, thank you. And then I have a couple questions that might be for the traffic engineer. They have to do with stop signs. We did receive follow-up verbal comments from the peer reviewer responding to your comments.
Oh, good, okay.
Responding to his comments.
Yeah, I apologize for the
No, that's
lateness.
okay. The one particular comment I'll mention right now is regarding stop signs. And they can be put on city property or public property. They don't have to be put on private property. Is that something you're aware of?
So it actually depends on the municipality. A lot of municipalities do not want the stop sign in the public right-of-way because it should be maintained by the private owner of the property. So that's typically our, from our site design perspective, typically we put our stop signs on our property. Especially like on our site too, right, the sidewalk, it's so far back, we wouldn't want the stop sign up like on the curb, we would want it back so
Right,
that they
like at the
stop.
back of sidewalk,
Yeah,
but still it could be
exactly.
on the sidewalk.
Of course it
Yeah.
could, like, yeah, stop signs could, it all just depends on the sidewalk width and where it should be placed. So it could be placed in the public realm, I guess, obviously as long as it made sense, and the city allowed it.
Okay, thank you.
One thing with that too is if you put in the sidewalk, I know I deal with a lot of DPWs, and snow removal is a problem. So if you're putting a sign in the sidewalk, the DPWs don't particularly like it because they have to maneuver around those signs. And the right-of-way line for most of the properties along Broadway is right at that edge of the sidewalk. So if it was on municipal property, it would have to be in the sidewalks. So just
Yeah,
something to
in
consider.
Malden, the property owner is responsible for snow removal on the sidewalk adjacent to its site, so.
So there's no
not a-
sidewalk
It's not
plow
a
or something like
DPW,
that?
yeah, there's no sidewalk plows. In hours of operation, by ordinance of 5:30 to midnight. Anything beyond that, you'd need to seek a license from the city council.
Did you say it's 5:30
5:30
a.m.?
a.m. to
Thank you.
midnight.
Okay.
Do you know if you would be seeking to be a 24-hour operation?
He had mentioned 10 to 10:30 a.m. to either 11
Okay,
p.m.
so you
or
don't
12.
intend to pursue a 24-hour operation, okay. Thank you. The other comment, you mentioned reusing the dumpster enclosure, it's like a cement enclosure?
Yes.
Looks like it's painted right now with graffiti and other things, but you'll use that same cement enclosure or concrete, and you said you would add gates, is that correct?
We'd power wash it, paint it, or not, but DE Foods will wash it, paint it, and reaffix the gates.
Okay, and so do you know, the chairman had mentioned using that cut-through between your lot and 61, which is the Burger King lot, for trash removal. There were bollards there, you mentioned, which I saw today when I was out there. Do you know who owns the bollards, or who put the bollards there?
That I don't know. They weren't on the previous site plan for KFC Long John Silver, so I'm not sure if Burger King put them because that was the edge of their parking spaces and they didn't want the cut-through, or if KFC did it for security reasons. Because they also, and this might be the fence that you're talking about, they also installed a security fence around most of the site that is going to be removed. So
Yeah,
I
right,
know-
that's the chain link fence. I was actually talking about the brown fence that's crushed in portions.
Okay.
Looks like it has like vinyl.
Yeah, that would have to be
edging in,
replaced
right.
then. The one towards, I know there is one towards the back that has that vinyl, and that's the KFC Long John Silver's fence. So that would be the responsibility of DE Foods to repair that.
Okay, would you agree to not using that cut-through or not allowing access? Do you think you could do that? Do you have any concern with your site being used as a cut-through to get to the Burger King, if that was open?
My only concern is I'd have to look to see if that agreement had rights for Burger King, because we can't eliminate their rights.
Yeah, I believe it said the easement was to the benefit of your lot.
Right.
But given they have an issue with queuing and access getting onto the site, and you don't, once you're open now and you can use your site,
We can
To
leave
cut
those
through.
bollards up.
you would agree to keep them?
If the city wants us to keep them, we'll keep bollards.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have for now. Thanks.
Okay, Eric Henry would like to ask another question.
Yes, excuse me, thank you, Chair. This is in relation to maintenance schedules and snow removal and trash removal. At your other properties, do you have some standard that you clean your properties? What is every 2 hours you have someone policing the property to pick up napkins and things, or you remove snow after, what is your general plan for maintenance and upkeep with snow and trash?
Well, it behooves us to keep the property, safe for customers, everything else. So we plow as needed, whenever we need it. We sand, salt, whatever. Depends on the municipality. Sometimes you can't salt. The idea of cleaning the thing is something we do probably close to hourly. We have people checking to make sure that there's nothing out there that would, detract from our appearance. So the idea of curb appeal is something that we take very seriously. Same thing with the safety we would not want an untreated parking lot because that's slip and falls and all that other kind of stuff. So we're on top of that kind of stuff.
Thank you.
Very good. Ken Antonucci again.
Yeah, just a couple more quick ones, sorry. Getting your exercise.
I need my steps. There you go.
Yeah, no, just circling back to one of the chair's earlier questions regarding the duration of the renovations. And you mentioned 4 to 6 weeks. Have you?
Probably 6 to 8 weeks. I'm sorry, if I
6
said
to
4 to
8.
6, I misspoke.
Okay, maybe it was 6 to 8. Have you had a chance to survey the existing mechanical sprinkler even bathrooms, just to see what
We
the
have
condition
walked
is?
through, and there are things to do, I can tell you that, yeah.
Okay.
So, but we're, in the last 3 years, I've been responsible for about 50 remodels that we've done on our other restaurants. We're building a couple new ones as well, so we've got a very good idea. We're actually, as soon as, hopefully we have a favorable outcome here, I'm meeting with contractors on site, and we're gonna go through all this. We looked at it, there's definitely things to do, but we're pretty good at it, so and again, getting open as quickly as we can is good for business, so we would.
Yeah, no, I know, just, not knowing how it was closed up, by the previous
No,
owner.
it is imperfect inside, yeah, so, we'll make it better.
Well, all right, thank you.
Okay, so you're all set, Ken?
Yes.
Okay, does anyone else have any questions for the petitioner? Do you guys have anything else you'd like to present?
I don't think so, no, sir.
Very good, thank you. At this point, we will entertain those that would like to speak in favor of the petition. Anyone that would like to speak in favor? One question before you come up, Counselor. Each of you signed out the name and address for the record? Thank you. Okay, unless you think it's distracting. Do you think it's distracting? Thank you, Counselor. Thank you.
This is a little too high for me, Michelle. Short people, this is not good for. Good evening, Jadine Sika, Ward 8 City Councilor, 12 Cleveland Street, Malden. I am here to speak in favor of this petition, having lived in Ward 8 for over 40 years and have seen this particular parcel empty for the last 14. It's a huge eyesore as you drive by. People are coming in from Everett, and it doesn't look too appealing to see in Malden. I've discussed with the building commissioner, I've spoken to Yem, the engineer. Everybody is in agreement. They think that this would be a welcome business for us to have in our city. They've been here before. We know how it operates. Having lived in Ward 8 for over 40 years, I've never seen a queue as one would describe in this meeting. Burger King has a smaller loop, like their engineer had pointed out, and I've never seen a queue backed up on South Broadway to get into the parking lot. I think KFC would probably have no problem as well. When I was younger, I feel like that corridor of Broadway was actually more utilized than it is now, even with the car wash coming across the street. Eastern Bank has since closed, the R&R. You had Heartland. You had the Broadway Manor. I vaguely remember KFC where McDonald's was before it moved from Maplewood Street. So I think that this is a welcome project. Again, after speaking to the building commissioner, numerous times over the last 8 years as me being the city councilor, this has been a problem property for us. It hasn't actually made that list, but we do have some of our homeless population that have used the back of this building to store their belongings and sometimes even sleep there. So it's been a nuisance to our police and our fire department. I spoke to the chief and Captain Cronin this morning regarding it, and they welcome this project as well. And if anybody has any questions or would like to ask me anything, I'm more than happy to answer, but I do think that this would be a welcome site to Ward 8. I welcome the meals tax. I welcome the jobs that Dan had mentioned. He would be willing to give Malden, preference to. I think that this would be a great improvement to the area. I do understand it doesn't work with our Broadway corridor project that the study that we've been doing, but I think that this makes sense. For the last 8 years, I've had numerous developments and people
reach out to me, I'm sure, same with Michelle, including marijuana dispensaries. Nothing has worked at this location. They have it. Let's bring it back and let's get this business up and running. So thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor of this petition?
Good evening. It's the first time I get to speak this way. This is interesting. Good evening, distinguished planning board. My name is Craig Spatafora, 75 Elm Street in Malden. The first thing is I always say when I go on the record, with all due respect to petitioner, I do not believe any traffic study before me because they can be tweaked in any way. But the ultimate decision here is this is an existing building that will be retreaded and reused. If you look at that piece of property, it probably has very little value other than the cemetery to actually put something there from a development standpoint. It's long, skinny, and narrow, and given probably one of the greatest building booms in the last 100 years for this country, it's sat vacant for 14 years. And this is the first time I've seen a project get this far. So sometimes beggars cannot be choosers. I think by just keeping the exact same footprint, I'm 100% in support of this building. I think if they wanted to add on or they wanted to tear down and move it, I would not be in that much of a support, but I think it's an ability to take an empty, vacant parcel, and what's more disturbing to me is when you looked at the aerial photo, is the property to the left of it is really an eyesore, I think, for the city of Malden. So hopefully, like a lot of other development, the tide rises all ships, and we can start seeing some development down that corridor, which was discussed way back when they were building Encore. That was supposed to be a place where they would have storage facilities for the casino and all types of support mechanisms, and nothing panned out of it, unfortunately. So we have a viable business, I think, is willing to go in there and spend significant dollars. Michelle Romero, I was talking in the back to the ward council, everything that she mentioned, I said we should make a condition to make the parking lot completely new, add more green space, the bike rack, so everything that I think the committee's been thinking, I fully support. The other thing too is the jobs I think are important, even though in this economy it's starting to pick up. The mills tax is important. It's a commercial piece of property. The tax value will go up. They pay a higher water tax, and that really benefits a lot of the homeowners in the city. If we have more commercial, we can keep the rates down at a reasonable rate. The other thing I think I want to point out is, as a parent of 3, not teenagers yet, Grubhub is changing the way we use fast food. So if we think that traffic is not going to come in, I have a 13-year-old son who ordered McDonald's 3 weeks ago, and the guy knocked on my door and said, "I'm here for your McDonald's order." He used his phone. And there is no McDonald's in Malden, so they got the McDonald's in Woburn, they drove to Malden, and they dropped off the food. We didn't get any meals tax in that deal. So I think the ability to have a Kentucky Fried Chicken here changes the way, too, we can get meals tax in the new age, meaning somebody on the other side of the city can order Kentucky Fried Chicken, have it delivered to their house, and we get the meals tax. Because we're kidding ourselves if we don't think they're doing it now from Chelsea or Saugus. So I look at this as a really good opportunity. It is a retread. I appreciate the investment, Mr. Antonucci and Mr. Iovan asking, making sure that that building is built or at least recycled in a fashion that, it's new and remodeled. But I'm 100% support of this for all those reasons. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor?
Good evening again. I'm Peg Crow. I live at 9 Hancock Street, Malden. I wasn't here for this petition, but I ended up staying. So I am in favor of this. I think it has been blighted for a long time, and that really clean this up. You can tell they have a lot of dedication to really making sure that their properties are well maintained, well managed, and well kept. I think adding the trees, adding the bike rack, the frontage, just really cleaning up this property, I think will really go a long way. And I applaud them for kind of coming in and sort of taking a fresh look at a blighted area and reusing it for what we had before, although I'm hungry now, I'm going to say. And really, again, starting to bring some life back. So I appreciate this. I appreciate you bringing this petition, and I'm in full support.
Thank you, Councilor. Anyone else that would like to speak in favor? Michelle, do you have anything to read in favor?
I have one letter dated July 14th, 2021. It's addressed to the chairman. It reads, "Dear Chairman Iovine and members of the Planning Board, I write in support of the petition for a special permit to be issued at 75 Broadway, Malden, that would allow for the reestablishment of a fast food restaurant, namely KFC. The location of this property is adjacent to the Ward 7 residents that I represent. Those residents, along with me, feel that this is a great location for this business and should be allowed. Number 75 Broadway operated for years as a restaurant, but poor economic conditions forced its closing. With the improved economic condition of late and the popularity of this use, establishing this KFC would be an asset to our community instead of having just another abandoned building. The property requires improvements to the structure and streetscape, however. Granting the special permit with conditions would benefit the community and therefore deserves our wholehearted support. Please vote yes on granting. Respectfully submitted, Neil Anderson, City Council, Ward 7, and City Council President."
Thank you, Michelle.
I also have a letter, an email that was submitted July 14th, 2021. It was forwarded to me by Jadine Sika, the ward councilor, and it reads, "Dear Councilor Sika, I am aware of the proposal for KFC to return to 75 Broadway. I use the word return to highlight the fact that the location was previously used for that purpose. From a public safety perspective, I feel that this proposal has great potential for the location, the area, and the city. The condition of this abandoned and neglected property over the years is clearly something that is detrimental to public safety. This is an area of the city that has great potential for safe and vibrant development and improvement. I offer these words of support along with my willingness to work with you, the applicable city agencies, and the representatives from KFC to provide a positive outcome for this proposal." It's from Kevin Molas, Police Chief. That's what I have.
Okay, so you don't have anything else to read. Last call for anyone in favor. Seeing and hearing none, declare that part of the hearing closed. Is there anyone that would like to speak in opposition to this petition? Anyone speak in opposition?
Yeah, hi, my name is Brian DeLacy. I'm at 1 Earl Street, and I would like to speak in opposition. I submitted a letter to Michelle, so you have that on file, and if I may read from it, I'd appreciate it. I appreciate this opportunity to speak before. I do enjoy fast food and drive-thrus, so with all due respect, and I do have fond memories of Long John Silver's and going through that drive-thru in years past. With that said, I have no opposition to the food, but I have opposition to the concerns of public safety. And in particular, as those concerns may in fact impact the 30 to 40 staff members that these good people are looking to employ. And as they said, they'd like nothing better, excuse me, than to have employees who live close by and can get there with great convenience. So with that said, I wish to speak in opposition to your unconditional approval of the permit requested for 75 Broadway. In particular, I call on your planning board to require a formal mobility study. This is beyond a traffic study. I had not read the traffic study, I had not seen the peer review of it, and I would like to review that. However, a mobility study of the area prior to approving any conditions of a special permit would be very helpful for reasons that I will explain. The roadway in this area as it exists today is unsafe for pedestrians, for cyclists, and it was good to hear bike racks, and they're aware of that. And it's increasingly hazardous for vehicular traffic. I have spoken with multiple people, including residents of Ward 7 and Ward 6, who refer to this area as a known hazard. And again, this is a pedestrian hazard. You'll hear, I'd be glad to tell you how bad those intersections and crosswalks are. In addition, I've heard other people say, quote, pedestrians routinely have to take their life in their own hands getting across that roadway, right in the exact location of this building. I am aware of multiple complaints that have been filed to the city up to 6 years ago with respect to pedestrian access crossing the street. My understanding is that traffic and the congestion that's there, particularly for pedestrians, has grown worse in the last 5 years. And as we heard, that particular location has not been operational for what sounds to be 14. I can tell you from my own experience this last weekend, probably around that mid-Saturday hour, that it's a scary place to walk. I don't know if you have crossed the street to get that burger or come across the other way from Ward 8 to go to McDonald's. I have. I can tell you from my own experience that I am very thankful that a large blue pickup truck stopped as I crossed the 4-lane highway. As you know, it's not a roadway, it's a 4-lane state highway. There are no crosswalks, there are no dividing areas, there's no place to pause. As you likely know, there's a new car wash. I'm glad that they described in detail the neighboring businesses. As soon as I saw that, it was immediately obvious. The car wash is not open yet. It looks to be a substantial, prestigious place to come. Its success will depend upon driving more traffic through that area, through that immediate area directly across from this location. Whatever queuing studies they have looked into and analyzed is certainly a dynamic situation that will change dramatically upon the opening of that business. I believe a mobility study should incorporate a traditional traffic study, as we heard about tonight, but with the addition of a pedestrian crosswalk study. In all of the comments I've heard, in all of the questions I've listened to, nobody has talked about the pedestrians in that area. Nobody has asked about the safety of bicyclists in that area. I'm glad they're thinking about bike racks. I know that would be a great place for kids to go. I think it would be a great place for the youth of Malden to work, but it's unsafe in the current configuration. Many special permit situations like this, it's routine to do traffic studies. Malden really needs to do more. So, I ask that you review tonight's permit application and that you be laser focused on the public safety issues in the area. Not just homeless people, not just trash, not just torn up asphalt, but the human beings. There are 6 bus stops in the area. I don't know if you've ever taken them. There are 3 up and down the road, and there's barely a crosswalk between them. There's 3 going south, there's 3 going north, and a person was killed getting off the bus after a day of work to return to their residence. As you know, there's a plaza, there's a shopping center, there are retail stores, there's Howard Park. It's a heavily trafficked area. People will tell you, people in this room will tell you, that the intersection of Broadway and Salem is one of the most dangerous, if not in the city, possibly in the state. They'll tell you that the crossing, where the bike path is crossing, is benefiting from grant money in the near future to make it a safer crossing place. I don't want to be the one to tell you that 2 years from now, some one of our children or some one of our grandparents or some one of our neighbors is going to be struck by a vehicle in that area. The crosswalks are insufficient, there is no lighting, and so I love fast food. And I think we live in an area where drive-thrus are fabulous. But all I'm concerned about are the people who approached me and expressed concern for their well-being. I was told it 6 years ago, I have not verified this, 300 people, a lot of people, signed a petition about the safety of that roadway. KFC wasn't open at the time. Long John Silver's was long gone. They heard nothing back. It's my understanding that roughly 4 years ago, safety in that area was looked at. It was brought to the state. It's a state roadway. We know that. Whether it's lighting, whether it's crosswalks, I'm not sure what it is, but I do just respectfully request that in our best interests, in your best interests, I do not think we are beggars in this deal, and I don't think the good people of KFC want to risk their employees crossing the street to get to work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. DeLacy. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition?
Good evening, Michelle Luong, 111 Daniel Street, Malden, current school committee representative, Ward 7. Hello, honorable members of the planning board, and thank you for letting me speak tonight. My concerns for this project strictly lie in the safety and in the opinion that area residents have had for many years. Excessive speed on the lower Broadway Road, lack of traffic lights at the entrance of the Broadway Plaza specifically. The area is not walkable, and it's not bicycle friendly. There is already new construction, the car wash, in progress right across the street, which will add traffic. Nobody wants to stifle progress, nor do I. And it's definitely a property that needs to be rehabbed and needs to put to work because it should not be sitting there abandoned. But approving this project without first implementing the changes that the residents have asked for, time and time again, will only cause undue hardship to the area. As a Ward 7 resident, I've had many people speaking to me about this, and their concerns are safety, and that is my concern for these people. They've lived here their entire lives. They have seen Burger King backing up onto the Broadway. They are afraid to walk across that street. And unfortunately, they shouldn't have to live in fear to cross the street to go to work or just to go wherever they need to go. Not everybody has a car. Most people will walk. So I just want to say thank you so much for your time, and I hope you'll consider these concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to speak in opposition?
Yes, Stephen Winslow, 83 Jacob Street, Counselor at Large. And I do echo the concerns about giving this project approval unconditionally, especially related to the traffic issues and the pedestrian issues in the area. As someone who's dedicated a lot of my time serving as a counselor at large to focus on our transportation issues, I'm very well aware that and I appreciate the work that Councilor Sika did, and I participated in developing that Broadway corridor study. And I very much realize that to really realize that vision that the community has as a more walkable, safe street for motorists, pedestrians, and bicyclists who would use it, we're talking about a $20 million more project. And just talking about engineering design is a couple $1 million. So what I certainly wouldn't expect an individual business coming in to advance that much money, but I have a couple things that I ask that you as a planning board think of. First of all, making sure that whatever decisions you make related to this business and future businesses, first thinking of do no harm in terms of making sure that we can realize the vision that's set forth in that Broadway study. And I think, since this is a business, we do have several drive-throughs and other type of things, and we talked about a restaurant district. I think that probably, this is a business that's in the neighborhood. I don't think people are talking about opposing the business itself. I think the other thing is making sure that whoever comes in, as we're working to, it's 5 to 10 years to realize that bigger vision. In this next 5 to 10 years, that the planning board come up with conditions that, as people are applying for special conditions, that they help on what we need as a city, in either in terms of financial contributions or other type of things, to ensure that we have the resources to realize that vision. And so that's really what I asked, is that I know the applicant, we asked them to do striping and other type of things. I actually rather see that money go towards setting aside and some contribution to our engineering office so that we can start the engineering studies to achieve what the community needs here. Like I say, it's a substantial thing to to obtain the money we need to redo a state highway. And, you know, I just looking at today at the transportation improvement plan that's just been approved. Communities like Lynn and Medford have been receiving tens of millions of dollars. Malden, except for Exchange Street, $2 million, which really is secured by Congressman Markey. We're just not at that level. This is the level that we need to work on as a community. And I think we need to not be beggars. We need to ask businesses that are coming to our community to be part of the vision that our community is doing. So that's what I ask for you in your work to really figure out that condition. And like I say, I'd like to see some funding go towards the engineering studies we need to achieve that vision. That's a fair amount of resource here, you know, for this business. And that's really what I'd like to say. That, you know, we have a lot of work to do on this corridor. And like I say, I want new businesses coming in to help us achieve the vision. But obviously, we can't expect them to do it all themselves. Thank you very much. Great.
Thank you, Councilor. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition? Anyone speak in opposition? Michelle, do you have anything to read in opposition?
I did have the one letter from Brian DeLacy, but he testified, so we will not be reading that.
Very good. Seeing no one else who would like to, Councilor O'Malley.
Ryan O'Malley, Ward 4 City Councilor. I want to start by saying I'm actually not in opposition, but I did miss the in favor, and I'm really more testifying kind of in a neutral and just suggesting maybe some conditions that you could add to the proposal. I do agree. This is a very, very dangerous road. Broadway, we've had many fatalities in this neighborhood, particularly along Broadway or within very close intersections of Broadway. I think a good condition would be that the petitioner, who should not be responsible for doing a complete redesign of the corridor, maybe they could help fund a crosswalk across Broadway, wherever the city engineer thinks that is best situated, in order to help the workers and the patrons going to this location to get across Broadway. I do think we deserve more in terms of what we envision for this corridor. Obviously, it's an existing building that kind of fits perfectly, so I don't think this should be denied. But I do think when we think about what this corridor looks like, we do deserve better, and we should be really focusing on that corridor study. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition? Seeing and hearing none, declare that part of the hearing closed. Michelle, can you take us through your staff report, please?